Welcome into the second episode of the Bird and the Bear podcast.
Said it right this time.
Michael Knauff, Cameron Carriglio, getting ready for the first official week of the college football season. We were teased last week with two Division I games, and now they're really disappointed in terms of nail-biting excitement. Florida-Miami, a 4-point game, and then Arizona-Hawaii came down a yard in that game.
The wackiest ending I've seen in quite a long time, quite frankly.
Yeah, poor Khalil Tate, almost 400 yards by himself. And
I think it's quite literally thrown onto his face at the 1 yard line, staring right at it. Great game, though. What's crazy is Hawaii benched their starting quarterback, put in a dude who won them a few games last year, and proceeded to win them the game.
Yeah, McDonald 4 touchdowns with 4 picks.
Yeah, but truly, how often do you see a QB controversy when your guy goes for almost 404 touchdowns in 3 quarters?
It's a Hawaii-specific problem.
They actually used to do that in the June Jones era. They would, like Timmy Chang, like the first one, or one of the first ones, would get pulled when he wasn't performing. His junior year, it happened like 7 times. So
we'll see
Nick
what happens.
Rolovich is kind of carrying on that tradition of if you're not good, get out.
You're out. So we'll see what happens with McDonald. But the big game, obviously, Miami-Florida. Florida edging out Miami 24-20 in Orlando. And Gator fans have kind of reacted poorly to the outing. Florida, despite turning the ball over 4 times, there was a lot of positives for the Gators in that. I mean, we'll start with Felipe Franks. 17 for 27, 254 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, but 2 interceptions, had a rushing touchdown as well. Getting a lot of heat for his play, especially those 2 interceptions, which were deemed old Felipe Franks. He regressed, and for celebrating on the sidelines. And we kind of both agree, Cameron, that it's being blown out of proportion, the Franks drama after that performance.
I'm fairly passionate on this subject currently. I think it's absolutely ridiculous to say that he regressed after one game against. If you go back and look at their game-by-game stats, Miami's passing defense stats last year, they were elite. No one threw on them. No one could throw on them. And they played against some teams that could throw the ball, and no one did. I mean, it's ridiculous and asinine to say that Franks has already become worse. He made a couple great throws. I mean, he made a couple really poor decisions. But the biggest thing for me is people complaining about how he seems so arrogant and cocky and, he celebrated a touchdown. And all of a sudden they want him benched for Emory, who's proven quite literally nothing except for like a quarter and a half against Idaho last year. It's just so annoying. Like, you wonder why he's in the fans' faces is because he probably looks at Twitter. It's a cesspool of humanity. And Gator fans suck.
And are incredibly entitled. Florida fans are the most entitled football fans.
It's like, would you like to look at a list of our quarterbacks the last 10 years, going back after Tebow? I would take Franks over pretty much any of them, except for Louisiana Tech Driscoll.
And
not
probably
Florida
Will
Driscoll.
Greer.
And Greer, but that was just a blip on the radar. And then, like, have people already forgotten about our multitude of close calls against really bad teams like the last 10 years? I mean, we relied on a blocked punt against UL Lafayette in, 2012?
Yeah.
Wasn't that a 10-win team?
Yeah, no, that was.
FAU also took us to overtime. Remember when John Brantley had to lead a comeback against Furman? Scares against Bowling Green and Toledo in season openers in 13-14, somewhere in there.
24 points against the UMass team in the season opener in 2016.
Followed quickly by 32 points against what proved to be a bad North Texas team with Mason Fine as a true freshman, even though it felt like he's been there since 2010. But still, I'll take a close call over an in-state rival that we never beat.
With a top 15 defense.
Yeah. It's just asinine to me, the Gators are a 7 or 8 win team at most. It's like, okay, while that may be true, you're basing it on the wrong assumptions. Like, if we play like that again, yeah, we're going to lose some games, but we're not going to have a -4 turnover differential every game and have 2 fumbles inside their territory and both picks be run back pretty deep into ours.
And
not going to happen consistently.
Both fumbles Florida should have recovered. Florida recovered the second fumble, but
Side note, how we recovered no fumbles in that game is simply mind-boggling.
whether it be our own or ones that we forced
Was the
on
ball
defense.
greased? I mean, it seemed like 3 or 4 times we literally had it. And then a Miami player just, hey, I got it now.
So
I've never seen anything like that in my life. And why the hell did Malik Davis try to stand up?
And after all that, the fact that Florida won might be the most impressive thing. I mean, to put Frank's number just into perspective, Miami last year allowed about 145 yards through the air a game, and Frank's had over 100 yards more than that.
I mean, if you take
That
away
one
Tony,
game.
which is a screen, he still did better than average.
So
They need to get the ball to Tony more. Side note.
yeah,
Slippery eel.
he was on the field for 14 plays, got 4 touches.
That's it.
Yeah,
Jesus.
the biggest thing with Tony is that they don't feel he's an every down player and that he can run a route tree as a true receiver.
To be fair, it felt like the whole offense was on the field for 14 plays.
54 total plays the whole game.
That's so bad. I mean, it's not bad, but it throws off your offensive stats, that's for sure.
And on the flip side, Miami, despite allowing 10 sacks and not being able to capitalize on 4 turnovers,
And missing a 27-yard field goal.
missing a 27-yard field goal, Jaron Williams is probably the guy for them for the foreseeable future. I think that's a 9-win team.
Unless
this year.
Enos alienates him and he decides to get out of Dodge.
So if you didn't hear
Let Tathan have it.
if you didn't hear Dan Etos' comments, he essentially blamed Jaron Williams for the reason that the Canes lost to Florida when Enos, in counterpart, like Enos did not a single time leave a tight end to help the pass rush for Williams. I don't know. It was probably less than 5 times the whole game he left a running back in to block for Williams after he was under constant pressure the whole game. So that's something that Miami's going to have to clean up. I mean, they won't face a pass rush as good as Florida's the rest of the season, but
No, but it's still going to be a problem. I mean, I don't know how you can blame him. I mean, yeah, he made some bad decisions and probably should have gotten the ball away quicker, but he's, 18, 19 years old? You can't expect those decisions to be made against a game that probably looked like it was moving 300 miles an hour to him. And the fact that he torched us in the first half is admirable, annoying from my perspective, but I think he did a hell of a job for a first game out there.
I totally agree. And I mean, like I said, I think they're a 9-win team. I mean, the Coastal.
I mean, the Coastal sucks.
According to ESPN's projection, the Coastal is the worst division in all the Power 5. So there's no reason that Miami shouldn't win or at least compete for that division title.
Jesus, dude. Pittsburgh went 7-7 last year
Yeah,
and had that division wrapped up with 2 weeks to go.
the only other challenge for Miami might be UVA.
I think FSU could beat them. I mean, they hate each other enough.
It's definitely
I mean, last year, really bad FSU team should have beaten them
yeah. Miami had to come back from double digits to.
in the fourth quarter.
But we'll move on from week 0 into the first official week of the college football season. 60-plus games going on this week. It's
It's
a
overwhelming.
palooza. Yeah, it's overwhelming. And in the offseason going into week 1, probably the biggest story is just the transfer portal itself. And the number of quarterbacks that are in new places. I mean, we were talking about it before we went on here. We're just going to name off some quarterbacks that you definitely know who are in new places. You have Jalen Hurts going from Alabama to Oklahoma, Kelly Bryant from Clemson to Missouri, Jacob Eason, who left Georgia 2 seasons ago, had to sit out last year, but is now at Washington. He's going to be their starter. Tommy Stevens, who transferred from Penn State, now at Mississippi State. Justin Fields, who went from Georgia, now at Ohio State, who barely beat out another transfer, Gunnar Hoke, for the job at Ohio State.
Who could beat out Terry Wilson?
Who could beat out Terry Wilson. Brandon Wimbush goes from Notre Dame to UCF. Hunter Johnson now at Northwestern. Austin Kendall going from Oklahoma to West Virginia. And he left Oklahoma essentially because Jalen Hurts came in. And then you have Josh Jackson, went from Virginia Tech to Maryland. Those are the big guys that really stand out. But a good chunk of these guys are people that are going to make instant impacts on their teams. And Jalen Hurts is probably the guy that is probably in the consensus going to have the best season of any of these transfer quarterbacks. And in Lincoln Riley's offense, Hurts is really going to shine.
Yeah, although I think their passing numbers will decrease because I could very well be wrong because I didn't think Murray was a great passer at A&M, and, well, he was. And it looked from what small sample size we got with Hurts last year at Bama, his passing was way better than it was when he was a junior. So, or when he was a sophomore, redshirt sophomore.
He looked a lot more poised in the pocket. And then Hurts is going to, in the run game,
He may not be as big of a factor. He's fast, but he's not like Murray going to tuck one and run 80 yards.
But Hurts, he's going to help having Trey Sermon and
Kennedy Brooks
in the backfield with you. I think but the three of those guys can combine for over 3,500 yards on the ground. The three of them
probably
combined.
Close. I mean, it's about what they hit last year. Damn near it.
And considering the offensive line.
Without Marquise Brown, they still have a really good receiving core. They're going to be potent again. If they have a defense, which I doubt because they never do, I think they're still a 12-win or 11-win regular season team.
They'll be the top of the Big 12, regardless. And Hurts, yeah, he might not be as prolific as Mayfield or Murray was the past two seasons, but
who knows, really?
We didn't think Kyler Murray was going to be as prolific as Mayfield, and then look what he did.
I think the worst one is probably going to be Wimbush. Nothing he did at Notre Dame ever impressed me.
He's athletic, but that's about it. He's not
under his leadership. They should have lost to Vandy last year and beat Ball State by 7 and scored 24 points. He's just not. He's kind of limited as a passer, or at least he was. He very well may have improved. Heupel is shown to be very good at coaching quarterbacks, but I don't know if I buy them this year. I think someone gets them during the regular season.
Defensively, they're going to give up points. I mean, they did last year, and their offense was
good
with
enough.
Milton and Mack. They were good enough to outscore people, but this year might be a different story. Obviously, Darryl Mack gets hurt in the offseason, breaks his ankle essentially, and now he's more than likely out for the season. Now you have Wimbush, and we were talking about it. Dylan Gabriel, true freshman, probably going to see reps in their season opener against FAMU.
Yeah, it wouldn't honestly shock me if he eventually takes the job away. But they still can rely on Adrian Killens and Greg McCrae in the backfield. That's 2,000 yards probably right there. They probably will pass for fewer yards this year, I would have to assume. That may not result in a drop in points per game or anything like that.
But the American Athletic Conference is deeper this year. I mean, Memphis is going to be incredibly prolific offensively. Houston, with De'Aaron King back, is going to be a juggernaut.
Cincinnati plays that old school punch you in the mouth style of defense, and Desmond Ritter's actually a hell of a quarterback. Flew way under the radar last year, but he was very good.
And then for UCF, out of conference, they host Stanford, who will really see what UCF's made of come week 3. I mean, Stanford's not going to blow you away, but
I don't know. Stanford might. They did throw for almost 300 yards a game last year.
KJ Costello's back again, so
yeah, and Bryce Love's gone.
So they might unleash Costello. So we'll see how Wimbush and UCF, how that pans out. The person I'm most excited to see is Jacob Eason. I think that he's going to make Husky fans forget Jake Browning from a year ago.
Quite frankly, Browning hasn't been good. He wasn't good his last 2 years. But I think, honestly, Washington's offense kind of hamstrung him. I cannot stand Chris Peterson's offensive style. Hate it. Way too deep ball dependent when that's not working. It's just clunky. They struggle to get into the end zone. To me, their offensive style is not pretty. But I do think, at least from a touchdowns perspective, I think Eason is better than Browning, just pure arm strength and arm talent. They're going to be very good again.
Yeah, they'll compete for the North with Oregon and Washington State.
I don't know if I buy the Oregon hype.
We'll talk
to that.
We'll talk about Oregon a little bit later. But most recently, in terms of transfer quarterbacks named starters, Tommy Stevens at Mississippi State beat out Keontae Thompson for the starting role. Keaton Thompson. And now Keaton is already in the transfer portal.
Shocker.
So, and for Mississippi State, that hurts a lot. I mean, not a great passer, he's a great athlete. but that's your backup quarterback that you're already down before the season already starts.
Yeah, if Stevens gets hurt, that'll hurt a lot. But Thompson actually was a pretty decent passer, at least in the small sample size they had last year. Who knows? I mean, he might pull his name back. It's so late now.
It's possible, and we'll see what Joe Moorhead does to try to lure him back to keep him on the team because, like you said, he's one play away from being the starter.
Yeah, and them being Fitzgerald-less is going to be interesting to see how much that offense widens and opens up.
Because Fitzgerald, as great of an athlete and a runner he was,
passer.
Barely over 50%. Like 50, I think it was like 50.1
and they weren't asking him to do anything very difficult. It was like a high school offense.
It was pretty sad for them.
If their defense hadn't allowed like 9 touchdowns last year, they would have been in a much worse position than they were.
So transfer quarterback-wise, it'll be fun to see how this enormous list of names fares this season, and we're going to move on to kind of a bigger picture, and we're going to kind of run down some conference storylines. I'm going to give Cameron a storyline that I came up, probably just a general consensus, and just give me your take on each storyline. We'll start with the SEC. And basically, it's can anyone beat Bama in the West or Georgia in the East this season?
I think Alabama finally does not make the playoff.
Bold.
That'll probably be like my only hot take for the next 6 weeks. I'm not very good with those. I hate them.
It's going to bite you in the butt a little bit.
It probably will, but I honestly see LSU making some serious noise this year. And that includes beating Florida.
Going to Baton Rouge is never easy.
No, following up Auburn for us. But aside, I don't know. I think their defense is going to be a little bit weaker. I don't know if defenses are going to have figured out Tua, but I think there will probably have been some adjustments made. And I think that in a lot of ways you saw Clemson kind of exploit their kryptonite, and that was throw the damn ball. Especially when you have a talented quarterback like Lawrence, obviously. But I don't know. I think Bama, this could finally be the year they lose 2 regular season games.
Other than that, all right, so I guess LSU would be your pick to beat them in Tuscaloosa this season, albeit.
I could see it.
And then who else would you have Bama lose to?
Potentially Auburn.
They're in Auburn this year, aren't they? Or are they in Tuscaloosa?
1 second.
I'm pretty sure if they're in Auburn, I would agree with you there, especially with Auburn.
They're at Auburn. They also play at A&M.
That's always a tough place. That's always a tough game for Alabama.
And at South Carolina in what could kind of be considered a trap early in the season.
So let's use South Carolina show some grit early in.
Not that I think they beat South Carolina by 4 touchdowns, but crazier things have happened. In all likelihood, I think since that was my hot take, my logical side is probably going to say they make the playoff again.
It'll be tough not to.
It's more plausible this year for me to say they won't.
Because this is their air quote down year.
They've got to not at some point. Like, what's the point of the playoff if the same 2 teams are going to be in it all the time? And
then on the east side, Georgia, the question is basically, will Florida challenge Georgia? And
probably not this year. I don't see it. I think they're too talented.
They have depth that Florida
they have crazy
doesn't.
depth. Like almost Bama level depth. I think Fromm's better than Franks.
Oh, that objectively speaking,
we might have them on running back core,
receiving core
probably as well. Offensive line, weigh them.
I mean, Georgia by itself has an all SEC offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, even if we do beat Georgia, that doesn't really guarantee us anything. It helps, but that would probably be the only SEC game they lose.
Because
I can't say the same for us.
Yeah, and Dustin, Georgia's on a week-to-week basis, they're not going to let many people challenge them. I mean, I could see maybe Missouri giving them a challenge. Vanderbilt this weekend, the first half, could play with them a little bit.
Although Vandy's breaking in a new quarterback, do you really want that first half?
It could get ugly.
Against Georgia? No.
His saving grace is that he has Keyshawn Vaughn behind him.
Swing past them to death like they did to Florida in the first half. God, that was infuriating.
So for the SEC, it's
Bama, Georgia.
Bama, Georgia. So basically what you're saying, Auburn maybe, or an LSU in the West, but Georgia definitely in the East.
Yeah.
So the Big Ten now, and really, is it Michigan's year and on the East just to win the conference outright, make the playoff for the first time, and then Nebraska, will they take that leap under Scott Frost that everyone thinks they will?
Nebraska's my pick. Ohio State's my pick. I just don't buy Harbaugh as a quality coach. I mean, he's a good coach, but I don't buy his ability to win the games that he really needs to win to get to that level. They lost a lot defensively. Not that they didn't reload, but lost a multitude of really, really good players. I do think Shea Patterson, with the introduction of Evan Gaddis as their offensive coordinator, is going to be improved. I think they're going to score more. And they very well could be undefeated going into Ohio State. But I do think they lose again.
It's Harbaugh's curse against them. I mean, the fact
until last year, they hadn't done particularly well against Michigan State either. Michigan State should be better this year.
You would think.
They
can't
really be worse offensively, at least. But yeah, I just don't buy Michigan. I think they're more talented than Ohio State, potentially.
Oh, for sure.
But you could make that argument last year and it didn't really mean anything.
And yeah, you saw what Ohio State did them a season ago. And 2 years ago, it was a 2-3 matchup. And I thought that was Michigan's best chance to win.
Yeah.
So I agree that Ohio State's still going to win the East because I don't think Michigan can get past them.
No. The West is a crapshoot.
It's really going to come down to Nebraska, Iowa, maybe Wisconsin.
Yeah.
When you have Jonathan Taylor in the backfield, I mean, you're going to be in every game simply because you can control the clock.
Yeah, I mean, Wisconsin's always kind of a safe pick. It's also East and yeah, we did East and West. Never mind. Iowa's defense is gonna be really good, but I don't know. I like Nebraska.
Adrian Martinez is
Frost.
fun.
I think Adrian Martinez is gonna have an enormous year. I think this is their year.
Which would be nice
to see. I like when Nebraska's good.
Yeah.
They have a great fan base.
I mean,
there's not a whole lot else to do in Nebraska but go to football games.
I mean,
but still, they have a great fan base.
I just love when they're stating that capacity. That's the third largest city in the state.
Yeah, it's to capacity even when they suck. Wish I could say the same for Florida.
There's just like you said, there's nothing to do in Nebraska other than watch football and
they were so good for so long.
And it's really been a decade since they've even been. I mean, when Taylor Martinez was there, they were solid,
kind of competing,
but
they never won more than 9 games with him, did they?
I don't think so. I mean, they made the Big Ten title game once.
The Pelini 9-win ceiling there for like 5 or 6 consecutive years.
That's why I got fired.
Yeah.
And now, okay, so that's the Big Ten. Pac-12, they need to get back to relevancy in terms of on the national stage, and
not this year.
The only team that really, in terms of national contention, that's been talked about is Utah. Oregon too, but Utah's defense is elite, and that's why people are. There's been some projections that have had them in a college football playoff. I personally don't buy that.
That's a hot take.
But Utah, a playoff contender, and then Herbert and Oregon, we'll see what they can do offensively if they can get Oregon back to prominence.
Yeah. I mean, Utah, they could easily lose at BYU in the Holy War on Thursday. And bye-bye season. That's it.
Yeah,
not bye-bye, not season. They could very well make a group or New Year's Six bowl still, but like that would dash any chance they have in the playoffs. You can't lose.
If you're in the Pac-12, you have to go undefeated.
Yeah, you have to go undefeated, and I don't see any team doing that. I mean, Jesus, Arizona was projected to be probably one of the better teams in the conference, and if they hadn't gotten 6 turnovers off of Hawaii, they would have been railroaded. So.
I mean, Utah's going to dominate the South. There's no question about that. They'll win. They'll win. They'll wrap that division up probably with 2 or 3 weeks left in the regular season.
Yeah.
The North is a little bit more interesting. I mean, it's kind of a 3-team race between Washington, Wazoo, and Oregon.
Well, as it always is with Mike Leach offenses, is how quickly he can get his quarterback up to speed, and the fact that Anthony Gordon beat out Gage Gabrut is really impressive. Because he was prolific at Eastern Washington, but I guess he didn't learn the air raid quick enough, even though he ran something kind of similar at Eastern Washington. And Gordon's also a redshirt senior. He's been there when I think Connor Halliday was still there into Falk, into Minshew. So he's learned under some pretty good QBs.
Do you think it's his time at this point?
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean they win that division. I would love to see them do it.
It'd be fun.
Mike Leach. But I actually like Washington in the North.
Their defense will still be...
Defense is always great. They will win the Apple Cup because that's just what Washington does. The weather's always shitty.
Last year's game was so much fun.
It was fun, but I felt so bad for Washington State because you just can't run your offense effectively.
They couldn't do anything.
And they still made it relatively close. Normally they've gotten the pulp beat out of them, recently at least. But the weather's always terrible.
Yeah, it's either a disgusting rain or last year was a blizzard.
Yeah, and Washington seems to have their number. And I could very well see the division resting on that game. But who knows? I mean, I know Oregon's a sexy pick, and I tend to shy away from those unless it's like an established blue blood program that's like, oh yeah, of course, again. The Pac-12 is a crapshoot. Like I said, the South, I think Utah wins going away. I think they go at worst 8-1 in the conference.
I agree. They still.
But on the other side, 5-3 could get it done.
Yeah, in the South that could.
Because then you have Cal too. If Cal's offense improves, they're a threat just because their defense is so crazy talented. I mean, they literally beat Washington with 2 pick sixes last year.
Yeah,
12-10, awful game.
And a team we're not even talking about is Stanford, who's
because I don't trust their ability to run the ball effectively. But
they might not. They might not win.
A great coach.
They might not win the division, but they could definitely spoil some.
Yeah, they could spoil some dreams.
So Pac-12 crapshoot.
Washington, Utah for me.
Washington, Utah. That's Cameron's pick. Be tough. I had Oregon, Utah in my projections, but moving on to the ACC now, and it's a one-horse race for the division title. It's basically who's going to play Clemson in the ACC title game. I think it's be Miami, but UVA is kind of a trendy pick, but no one's going to challenge Clemson for that conference whatsoever.
No, I mean, you look at the Coastal, and there are 4 teams definitely in the race, potentially 5, depending on how high you are on Mac Brown in North Carolina. I'm personally not yet.
Well, Sam Howell's a true freshman. He's going to be starting for them. So we'll see how he does against South Carolina this coming
Probably
weekend.
poorly.
I mean, South Carolina's going to have a nasty defense.
Yeah, but that doesn't have any effect on the ACC, though. If he gets up to speed kind of against South Carolina and kind of jettisons that into the ACC schedule, then they could very easily, once again, everybody goes 5-3, and who has the tiebreakers? I could see that definitely happening in the Coastal. Because I don't buy Virginia Tech.
I don't
think Fuente's a very good coach.
He's in the hot seat. If they don't go better than probably 8-4 this season, I could see him out.
6-7 and a shellacking at the hands of Cincinnati last year, and having to beat Marshall just to get to a bowl. Sound familiar? Willie Taggart?
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm sorry, that was Jimbo Fisher's last year.
Jimbo Fisher's
last year.
Yep.
But I think I like UVA, actually.
Bryce Perkins,
because I think UVA is going to do to Miami the closest thing you can get to what we did to them.
I'd agree. That with Bronco or their head coach,
and I think Virginia finally gets Virginia Tech this year.
It has to happen. The fact that he didn't get them last year was hilarious. I
felt so bad for them.
I'm from Virginia, and so I that rivalry it's intense up there. I mean, it's been since 2003 that UVA has beaten Virginia Tech.
Matt Schaub was the winning quarterback.
Oof. But I think Bronco Mendenhall, he's a defensive genius.
And he actually allows his offensive coordinator to run a modern offense. So I think Virginia finally gets him. I think Bryce Perkins is going to have a great year.
He's a true dual threat quarterback.
Runs like a 4.4.
He's
he can fly.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. And he throws the ball decently
adequately
too. Yeah.
He does lose Olamide Zaccheaus this year, so that kind of hurts. But they have other weapons. I feel like losing wide receivers is honestly not that big of a deal anymore.
I agree.
Unless you lose like your whole squadron. Losing one guy here and there really is not a big deal.
Typically,
we saw Hawai'i. They lost, 3 of their top 5, 2 of their top 4?
2 of the top 4 last year, yeah.
And there was no noticeable difference to me.
I agree. It's kind of a plug and play. I mean...
Yeah, Duke is not going to be good, I don't think. No Daniel Jones probably presents some issues. And Georgia Tech, Oof.
Yeah, it's not going to be pretty.
It's going to be pain for a few years, I think, but Jeff Collins is a good coach. I think he'll eventually have them where he wants them to be. Where they should be. They're in downtown Atlanta.
Once he gets his recruiting class in, they'll be okay.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, in the Atlantic, it's Clemson and everyone else. I mean,
yep.
Boston College probably will be solid again this season.
Cuse, too.
And
Cuse seems to be, like, the only team in the ACC that has some kind of kryptonite with Clemson. They didn't get them last year.
Clemson's got to go to the Dome this year, too.
Yeah, and it's not going to be fun. Carrier's going to be rocking.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the Dome.
The Dome.
As they've removed all references to the company. Yeah, I think Clemson, Virginia.
I think I had Clemson, Miami, but UVA is definitely right there with Miami. Moving on to the Big 12. It's kind of a two-horse race with, in my opinion, a sleeper. It's Texas, Oklahoma, and then Iowa State is kind of lurking in the shadows with Brock Purdy at quarterback. So basically, is Texas back? Will Oklahoma continue their dominance, or can Iowa State sneak in there and knock one of those teams out of the Big 12 title game?
I'm hesitant to pick Iowa State doing that, but I could definitely see it. I'm not sure Texas is all that. I mean, they lost four games last year. I know they beat Oklahoma and they beat Georgia in the bowl game, but I mean, I'm very hesitant to rely on bowl results. I mean, I don't think I've referenced our bowl win over Michigan a single time last week.
No, not once. No.
I just generally don't think it means much, unless obviously it's like a playoff or national title or something like that. But I don't know. I'm not sure I buy Texas. They weren't explosive last year, so I'm actually really, really curious to see if they get more explosive. They had the second shortest, longest play from scrimmage last year of any Division I team.
It's like, 47, 48 yards?
48. The last, I believe, was Central Michigan or Kent State, one of the two. Neither of them had elite offenses by any stretch.
And they can't rely on Ellinger so much in the run game. He's
a bulldozer, but he's not going to scramble a bunch. But I think he'll throw for quite a few yards this year.
They'll be good. I think they're a 10-win team. Yeah. And then they're chasing Oklahoma, who we talked about earlier with Hurts. I mean, when you have Trey Sermon, Kennedy Brooks, and then CeeDee Lamb out wide, that's about a good trio of skill position players as you could ask for, honestly.
Yeah. I'm going to go traditional here. Oklahoma, Texas. Rematch the Red River. Again.
Yeah. And thank goodness that game is good again. It's so much fun when both those teams are good in the Big 12.
But I mean, I could see TCU making some noise.
Gary Patterson
they were so injury-ridden last year.
And Gary Patterson usually doesn't have consecutive poor seasons.
But they did name Alex Delton their starting quarterback, who never impressed me at Kansas State. So their offense might have some work to do. That's my only bone of contention with them. I could see Baylor making a little bit of noise. I think Charlie Brewer is immensely talented.
Yeah, he's kind of... I've heard his name come up a lot as somebody that could really take a step forward. And Baylor was decent last year.
I mean, they beat Vandy in the bowl. Oklahoma State's always a threat, although they don't really play defense ever.
They had the one the best receiver, in my opinion, in the Big 12 in Wallace.
Yeah. Remaining, at least. I thought Hakeem Butler was better last year.
Last year, Hakeem Butler was the best receiver.
Then you had the bottom four, Tech, Kansas State, West Virginia, Kansas. May not be great years for any of those teams.
No.
I love Texas Tech, but I think they actually will make a bowl, but I don't think they're going to be a player, really, in the conference.
It was fun to watch Alan Bowman play and put points up.
It's not the air raid anymore, but he's still going to get his numbers because Jordan Love got his numbers.
Yeah.
So, all right.
And
moving on.
So now that's the Power Five, now to the Group of Five. We're not going to spend much time on the Group of Five, but
that's what we think who's really going to make it.
The AAC, which you could argue is probably the best of the Group of Five conferences.
Power Six.
At UCF. Who, speaking of UCF, will they win the conference for a third straight year, or will we see someone like Memphis or Houston unseat them for the conference crown? You got Houston.
I got Houston. Houston and UCF.
For the conference title game.
Conference title.
So you think Houston beats Memphis out?
Yeah. Even though I think Brady White will take steps to improve, because I actually didn't think he was very good last year. And his metrics peripherally kind of back that up. He definitely wasn't as prolific as Riley Ferguson. But this is year 2 for him. I think he'll be very good. They did lose Darrell Henderson.
That's hard to replace.
He's a Swiss Army knife. and who is consistently running for like 200 yards a game. So they still have Patrick Taylor. He's a hell of a running back. But they are down a dude that was responsible for like a quarter of their offense. Or more. Probably more. Houston, Derek King. I'm a big fan.
Love watching him play.
Big fan of Derek King. I mean, if he comes back healthy, because that was a pretty bad injury. And I like Holgerson, the way he runs his teams. I don't think him hitting the ceiling at West Virginia was necessarily his fault. I just think that's kind of a limited program. And obviously the sky is not the limit at Houston because it's not a Power 5, but I think he could do some really good things there. I think Tulane's a dark horse too.
Wow, that's a name. That's a school I haven't heard be relevant in I don't know how long.
Yeah, they made a bowl last year. And I like Willie Fritz. He beat us.
True.
Georgia Southern. And he's actually committed to running a more balanced attack this year. He wants to be close to 50-50. And I think Justin McMillan has the arm to do it. But that's like a 2% chance. That's just some wacky crap happens in that part of the conference. But I like UCF and Houston. Maybe Cincinnati, but I'm going to go with UCF. Track record.
And then Houston winning the conference?
No, UCF.
You think UCF will still win it?
UCF still wins the conference. I just like Houston in the West.
Moving on to the Mountain West, where it's kind of a three-team race between Utah State, Boise State, and Fresno State. Probably the best group of 5 quarterback at Utah State, arguably in Jordan Love, him or Derek King. I'd say probably the two best.
Yeah. Mason Fine, North Texas.
Mason Fine, North Texas.
I do not buy Gary Anderson at all. I think Love's numbers take a step back. I think that offense as a whole takes a step back. They still may win the conference. Who knows? But I like Boise again. They're just talented. They reload as much as you can in a group of 5. I haven't really seen much on Bachmeier, but I'm going to go ahead and say he's probably pretty good. And Rippon started as a true freshman and was great. So I'm not sure that really means anything. In the West, I actually, honestly, after watching Hawai'i, I was pretty damn impressed.
Offensively, they're gonna put points up on anybody if they play.
Fresno replacing a QB, Nevada replacing a QB, and San Diego State kind of switching to a spread away from that draconian pro style they've run for like 5 or 6 years.
They're finally out of the 1950s.
Yeah, but they're still. That's going to kind of be tough. I like Hawaii, actually.
Wow. You think they'll beat Fresno State out for the...
Yeah. Looking at the rest of their schedule, I'm not really sure who Hawaii loses to in conference.
It's a bold pick. I think Fresno State will end up playing Boise again for the conference.
That was a hell of a game. I would not complain if that happened.
Oh, yeah.
That was a hell of a conference.
Both teams. Yeah, absolutely. So moving on now, Conference USA. We're kind of down to like the scrape, the bottom of D1. Conference USA is Sunbelt and MAC. The MAC. For Conference USA, it's kind of Marshall and North Texas are really the two teams that are contending for the conference title. We mentioned Mason Fine not too long ago. Incredibly gifted quarterback for North Texas.
Yeah, although I think UAB wins that division.
They're what, 11-2 last year?
11-3.
11-3.
Well-coached team. I thought that Tyler Johnston at quarterback was a vast step up from AJ Erdely. And he threw for over 300 against A&M, then top 300 in the bowl game. And I think with him and Shannon Brown, that's a nice little 1-2. I think UAB is actually going to score because they don't really score that many points. Their defense has just been fantastic, ironclad for 2 years. North Texas last year, that was a talented roster, and they went 9-4 and got obliterated in their bowl game. And it wasn't like people were sitting out. It was them and Utah State. Nobody was sitting out for the draft. That's a little more reliable.
Yeah, it's a reliable metric, yeah.
But I agree with you on the other side. I like Marshall, although I think FIU could make some noise.
They're explosive. They have a lot.
Yeah, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to buy FAU after Francois never came to campus. That's such a confusing situation.
It was kind of just like thrown around that he was going to go there, and Lane.
But everybody published it as if he was going to be the starter, and then he just like, "Hey guys,
I'm at Hampton now."
Yeah, I'm at Hampton. And they lose Singletary, and Chris Robinson was wildly inconsistent at quarterback last year. So, yeah, I like Marshall. I agree with you.
Yeah, Isaiah Green's going to really...
Although FIU close second, because I think Butch Davis is doing a fantastic job there.
So, you say UAB, Marshall for the
Yep.
Conference USA title game. Moving on, Sun Belt, which is there's some solid teams in the Sun Belt. I mean,
Honestly, the Sun Belt's probably better than the MAC nowadays.
considering Appalachian State, you have Troy and Georgia Southern, they're kind of the cream of the crop.
Side note, the way they organize the divisions in the Sun Belt is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Appy State, Troy, Georgia Southern are all in the same division. Why? And they just did divisions last year. They knew all these teams were going to be good.
And from a geographical standpoint, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
But that aside, Appalachian State, again, and I like Arkansas State.
They're kind of...
Because, I mean, honestly, the whole West kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's pretty...
So they're kind of the best of the worst, and they'll probably lose by like 30.
Yeah, and App State, they almost beat... They very easily should have beat Penn State to open season last year. I mean, they're ranked at a point.
Drinkwitz is a great offensive mind, and they have a returning core for the most part. They're going to be very good.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be in the Sun Belt for a whole hell of a lot longer.
Can you see them jumping to the AAC if a team departs?
UConn. UConn.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
That'd be fun.
There's a hole now.
Although the Sun Belt would have to actually add someone else.
James Madison.
I don't know. The logistics of coming up when you're an established FCS
It's
program
tough,
are
yeah.
difficult. That's why North Dakota State's turned it down like God knows how many times.
And
The MAC.
The MAC. And
Who you got, by the way, in the Sun Belt?
in the Sun Belt, I like App State. And it's hard to say anybody other than Arkansas State in the...
I mean, UL Lafayette could again, even though they weren't good.
They play Mississippi State to open the season, and offensively, they could maybe...
I mean, UL
Put
Lafayette just
something
won the
together.
tiebreaker lottery last year. They were 7-7. They weren't very good. But the MAC, the conference where no one attends the games.
Maction.
Yeah.
Because no one else will watch on a Saturday.
Miami, Ohio, Northern Illinois was the least attended game last year, aside from the Coastal Carolina at Campbell Hurricane reschedule.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
That's really sad. But I think for the MAC, it's basically Ohio's to lose
Yeah.
with Rourke at quarterback.
I wish they'd open him up a little bit. I think he can throw more than they let him. I don't understand why they don't. But yeah, they're running away in that division. Buffalo lost everybody.
Yeah.
Miami of Ohio, while still probably decent, is once again lost a lot of people. Other side, I could see Toledo, Western Michigan, Northern Illinois, and Eastern Michigan all making a run. My gut tells me Western Michigan, though.
I kind of lean towards Toledo a little bit.
And
But-
it's this logical pick. They're always in the thick of it.
So,
But Western Michigan's John Wasink back, and if he goes down again, they have a backup who started like 4 games last year. Was pretty good. So I buy them. Western Michigan, Ohio.
Ohio is the consensus between most of us. And
Going away.
yeah, it's not even close. So we're going to move on now to actual games. We've kind of picked some games that we think are notable this weekend that could have some impact on the rest of the season. So we're gonna go through. We'll begin on Thursday, a couple games on Thursday, and then we'll move through the rest of the week. We're gonna start on Thursday when UCLA travels to Cincinnati. Cincinnati, a 3-point favorite in that game. Cincinnati. And so 3-point favorite for Cincinnati. Your thoughts on that game?
I like UCLA. I think Chip Kelly year 2 with DTR year 2 is going to be better. Although watch me say that and then get blitzed. But I don't really think home field is going to be that big of a problem. I mean, Cincinnati is not exactly
A daunting place to play.
place to go play. And turnovers that kind of beat themselves last year. I think they win in kind of almost like a reverse score of last year. I see like 24-20, something like that. But I think UCLA gets them.
And then later that night, the Holy War. I just love the name of that rivalry.
Yeah, they hate each other. That'll be fun.
Number 14, Utah at BYU. Utah's a 6.5-point favorite. BYU is improved.
Yeah, Zach Wilson is a hell of a quarterback. 18 of 18, 317, 4 touchdowns or 5 touchdowns in the bowl game against Western Michigan. If they allow him to like open it up and throw, I think they could give Utah some hell. I still like Utah.
Defensively, they're
and Huntley and Zach Moss and pretty solid receiving core. I like them. I like them a lot. So yeah, I got Utah.
So you think they'll be better than the 6.5 point spread?
Probably. Yeah. I mean I'm thinking like 35-27 or something.
BYU
Similar to last year.
BYU keeps it close early, but Utah.
Yeah. I mean, BYU is a very disciplined team.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going to get blown out of the water.
Moving on to Friday. This is a game that I thought was kind of intriguing, but Utah State goes to Wake Forest. It kind of be Jordan Love's first game against a Power 5 opponent.
Michigan State last year, he torched them.
That's true. They did go to Michigan State last. They should have won that game. But Wake is a favorite. 3.5 points at home.
Yeah, I buy it. I think Wake wins. I already mentioned I don't buy Gary Anderson, and that'll be the first game in his system. And Jamie Newman, the announced starting quarterback for Wake Forest, is, I think, a very, very quality quarterback. Had a great game against NC State, had a great bowl game, and it's at Wake Forest, and I think Wake Forest takes it.
So now
that could be another foot and mouth game for me, but
I mean, it's a 3.5 point line. I mean, to pick them essentially. Moving on to Saturday now, we're going to start with an FCS team. James Madison goes to West Virginia. West Virginia is a 6-point favorite in Morgantown.
Wow, it's dropped.
But James Madison, one of the FCS elites over the past few seasons. A down year last year with 9-4 and lost to Colgate in the second round of the FCS playoffs. But new coach Kurt Cignetti replacing Mike Houston, who is now at East Carolina. So we'll see what the Dukes do. They return their starting quarterbacks. They just alternate. In Ben DiNucci, Cole Johnson, and Gage Maloney, who was the 2016 South Carolina Mr. Football and is on James Madison's roster. But then West Virginia, obviously, new coaching staff. Austin Kendall will be at quarterback. What do you expect?
I think West Virginia wins fairly comfortably. I don't understand why nobody likes West Virginia. I mean, they may only win like 5 or 6 games tops, but I mean, I do think they beat WVU. I think they do beat JMU. That line's absurd.
Yeah, it's gross. So West Virginia, you think comfortably?
Yeah.
Moving on to probably this game might feature the most points of the Saturday slate. Ole Miss goes to Memphis. It's 5.5. Memphis is a favorite. The over/under is 67.5.
That's another absurd line to me, though. What about Memphis gives better so much confidence? I think Matt Corral's just as good as Ta'amu. Different offense under Rich Rod now, obviously, but I don't see Memphis winning that game. Do you?
I think because Ole Miss secondary is so bad. Their defense is
Memphis as good either?
That's the thing. Like, I take the over in this game.
Oh yeah,
like no question about that.
Yeah, that's easy money.
It'll be
maybe by halftime. Good lord.
All right, I want to ask you this: Brady White and Matt Corral, the over/under on combined passing yards. I'll give you 800 over/under.
Under. I think 580.
Combined or
yeah, Rich Rod doesn't throw the ball that much. He might have to or choose to. I think White going for over 300 is safe. But once again, I mean, he only threw for 300 twice last year. In their opener against a no one, and then East Carolina, who was also kind of a no one last year. But it's gonna be a fun game.
You like Ole Miss though?
Yeah.
Score prediction?
41-35.
That's about what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I think you got to get 40 to win that game. Then we got South Carolina and UNC, the Belk Classic.
South Carolina.
They're a 10.5 point favorites. Yeah. We talked about it a bit earlier. UNC, Mac Brown with a true freshman quarterback and Sam Howell going up against Will Muschamp and
the 37-year-old Jake Bentley.
He's that young?
I feel like he's been there since I've been born.
He's been there
It's been a long
forever.
time. It's been a very long time.
I mean, Will Muschamp says this is the most talented South Carolina team he's had. They still might finish 5-7 this year, given their schedule.
Yeah, their schedule's hellacious.
But this is probably they have to win this game. They can't.
They will.
They
They
can't,
will.
and they can't let UNC hang around. I think they will too.
I think they cover.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a 2-touchdown win.
Yeah.
The next game will not have points. I don't think Northwestern goes to Stanford.
Oh, I'm thinking a surprising amount of points in that one. I think only 30 to win that game.
Really?
Yeah.
And KJ Costello for Stanford starting, and then
Hunter Johnson.
Hunter Johnson, who we-
5-star, highly touted Clemson transfer. Could be fun.
yeah, and, I mean Northwestern has been quality over the past few.
Yeah, I mean,
Seasons.
their out-of-conference track record hasn't been wonderful. They did lose to Akron last year.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stanford's a 6.5-point favorite.
And I'll take them.
Yeah, I'll take Stanford as well. And moving on to Virginia Tech, Boston College. Virginia Tech a 4.5-point favorite at BC.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
BC wins that game. I'm actually fairly confident on that one. I think BC wins that game.
I mean, Dave Williams back at quarterback.
And A.J. Dillon. It's Brown.
A.J. Dillon.
Anthony Brown.
Right.
Yeah.
So they'll be. I think it'll be Tech. I mean,
30-20, something like that. Maybe worse.
yeah, and this could be the beginning of the end for Fuente,
Yeah.
I think. Moving on to Boise State at Florida State.
Assuming it happens.
Assuming it happens, considering that Hurricane Dorian is looming in the Caribbean. But it's a neutral site, but it's in Jacksonville, so Florida State's essentially the home team. FSU's a 5-point favorite, but we'll see how Justin Blackman and that offense James Blackman. I say that about Blackman all the
I'm
time.
pretty sure Justin's in a jail cell somewhere.
Probably. He hasn't been in the NFL for 5 seasons now?
No. I like FSU winning that game. I hate saying that. I feel dirty.
I think your neck twinged a little bit when
Yeah.
you said that there.
I just can't see Boise State with a freshman quarterback winning that game.
I mean, FSU's defense will probably be formidable,
Yeah.
I would think.
And Blackman's a good QB.
I mean, he was good in 2 years ago when
Yeah.
Francois went
Well, he
down.
also torched NC State last year.
400-plus yards, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I have to agree. I think Florida State takes that one.
Yeah. 34-21, something like that.
I think it might be a little closer. Give it a 30-24, something like that. Moving on to the only SEC in conference game. Number 3, Georgia goes to Vanderbilt. Georgia's going to win this game. They're a 22-point favorite. I think that Vanderbilt in the first half might be able to hang around a little bit, but Jake Fromm and that offense is going to prove to be too much.
Yeah,
I think.
I'm thinking 42-14, something like that. I don't see Vandy scoring much at all.
No.
Vandy's defense is good, and Mason's a hell of a defensive coach. I mean, Lord knows Florida had enough issues with them last year in the first half. I could see something similar transpiring. Maybe not as high scoring as it was. But I think Georgia wins going away.
I agree.
Eventually.
I think they'll win by at least 24 points.
Yeah.
Auburn, Oregon, the entree for the Saturday slate, 11 versus 16 in Dallas. Auburn is a 3.5-point favorite, so basically a pick'em. Really intriguing quarterback matchup. True freshman Bo Nix for Auburn against who could have been the number 1 pick in last year's class, Justin Herbert. Who do you like
Potential
here?
Heisman candidate. I actually like Oregon. I talked a bunch of crap about him earlier, but I actually like him in this game. I think that the front seven will similarly terrorize Bo Nix as Florida did to Miami. I could definitely see Auburn winning if they can protect Nix and probably honestly not lean on him too hard. If they can avoid having to throw the ball a lot, I think they win or could win. But it's just if Oregon allows that to happen, I think that Herbert is the real deal. I like Oregon there. Yeah.
My only concern for Oregon is that they've lost a lot at the receiver position to injuries over the past few weeks. I mean, Brendan Schuler, their starting tight end's hurt.
Wait, Schuler's hurt?
They're saying that he'd been in a boot.
Oh, I missed that.
With his right foot. This is all recently, though. Micah Pittman, the outstanding true freshman they thought was going to start, he's done for at least 6 to 8 weeks with a right shoulder injury. Jawan Johnson, their starting X, is hurt. So Oregon's kind of thin at the receiver position right now. And so we'll see what Herbert has to work with come Saturday. But the Oregon offensive line is going to keep him protected.
I'm excited to see what Kayvon Thibodeau does, too.
Yeah. And from a Florida fan, thank God he didn't go to Florida State.
I know.
Thank God. But he'll be starting, no doubt, on that defense. I mean, he's a monster. He's number one overall prospect out of last year's class. So plenty of defensive front talent on both sides. And that'll be a fun game. I don't think it'll be that high scoring. I think it'll be like 27-20 Oregon, something like that.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
So moving on to the night slate, Fresno State goes to USC. USC's a 13.5-point favorite. JT Daniels back for his second year. Didn't really show a whole lot a season ago. Kind of disappointed, I'd say.
I saw flashes. He wasn't consistent, but I thought he showed flashes. None of that really matters because he's entering the air raid now.
Yeah, with Graham Harrell there now.
I'm excited to see what goes on.
It'll be interesting, especially with the amount of wide receiver talent that USC always has.
Always has. Even when they're bad, they have crazy wide receiver talent. I thought about it, and before Fresno State lost seemingly their entire running back score, I thought they could pull it off even with a new quarterback. I don't see it. I think USC wins pretty easily.
I think they cover the spread.
I'm not sure they cover, but I think it'll be comfortable.
It'll never be in doubt.
No.
So that'll do for the Saturday slate. And there's the last game that we're going to talk about is Sunday night. Houston goes to Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a 23-point favorite.
Oh, dropped. It's 25.
The question is, can Houston score enough to make it respectable? I think Oklahoma's going to win this game, but can Houston make it respectable at least?
I think if Houston scores above 28 points and allows less than 60, they should probably be happy. Their defense wasn't good a year ago, and when you're trying to kind of instill some confidence in either returning starters or guys that are just now getting a chance to play regularly, that is not the offense you want to do that with. So I could see it becoming a slaughter.
And considering we've talked about the offensive talent that Oklahoma has, and they're not going to miss a beat really as a whole.
No.
And
everyone that thought they were going to miss a beat, foot and mouth last year, it's really tough to say that, a national title winning quarterback is going to produce some drastic drop off production, and he knows how to win.
Yeah, he's only lost 2 games as a starter.
Yeah, I like Oklahoma pretty big there.
The over-under is 79.5.
Jeez. 51-28 projected final. That's what that says. I could about buy it.
Yeah, that's basically what you kind of just said right there.
Yeah.
As long as they keep Oklahoma under 60, they should be happy.
Yeah.
So that'll wrap up our game predictions and the hot topic games for the week. And that'll wrap it up for us here on this big Week 1 edition. 5 straight days of college football, ending with Notre Dame Louisville on Monday night. It'll be fun. You can't really read a whole lot into Week 1, but it can certainly establish a couple.
Tell Florida fans that.
Yeah, Florida fans definitely need to hear that. But we'll be back next week to recap Week 1 and then look ahead to Week 2, and it'll kind of give us an idea of what to expect maybe from the course of the season. So for Cameron Carriglio, I'm Michael Knauff. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week with the 3rd episode of the Bird and the Bear podcast. Have a good night, everyone.